For decades, you've probably heard the same old story: baseball is dying. It's too slow, it's too old, and it's totally striking out with younger generations. But here's the crazy part. That supposedly dying sport, it's actually a global entertainment juggernaut. So let's get into it. In 2024, Major League Baseball pulled in a record $12.1 billion. Let that sink in. That's billion with a B. And get this, sponsorship money alone hit $1.9 billion. That's a 55% jump in just 2 years. I mean, the money is just pouring in. And the league's crown jewel, the New York Yankees? Well, that's not just a team, it's an empire, and it's valued at a staggering $8.2 billion. So, what is going on here? How can a sport that's supposedly on its deathbed be one of the most valuable entertainment properties on the planet? Well, the answer is that baseball's history isn't some fuzzy, nostalgic story about fields and dreams. Nope. It's a brutal 150-year street fight. It's a saga of crisis and rebellion, where every single time the league nearly died, it was forced to reinvent itself in some pretty radical ways. To really get MLB, you have to go way back, to a time before it even was MLB. Back in the 1870s, professional baseball was, frankly, a lawless, chaotic mess. The top league at the time, the National Association, was just riddled with game fixing. They even had a name for it, hippodroming, where players would just throw games for gamblers. Teams would literally go broke and just disappear in the middle of a season. And then, this Chicago businessman, William Hulbert, he stages what was basically a hostile takeover. In 1876, he secretly convinces all the strongest teams to ditch the old league and form a new, exclusive club, the National League. And you can see the difference right here. Hulbert didn't create a partnership. He created a cartel. He brought order by basically becoming a dictator. But, that kind of monopoly, well, it was bound to breed a rebellion. So in 1901, a fiery ex-sports writer named Ban Johnson declared war. He launches the American League and just starts stealing the National League's best players. We're talking over 100 stars just jumped ship. The NL had no choice but to surrender. So in 1903, the two warring leagues signed a peace treaty. This national agreement created the two-league structure we still have today. And to figure out who was the real champion, they invented a final showdown, the World Series. So this new structure brought some peace, some stability, but that stability was about to get tested by two massive crises that threatened to destroy the public's trust in the game itself. The first bomb to go off was the 1919 Black Sox scandal. 8 players on the Chicago White Sox took bribes to throw the World Series. The public was absolutely devastated. So, in a total panic, the owners created a brand new, all-powerful position, the Commissioner of Baseball. And they hired this federal judge, Canessa Mountain Landis, a completely ruthless guy who, even after the players were found not guilty in court, banned all 8 of them for life. The message was brutal, but it was clear. The integrity of the game was everything. The next crisis was a moral one. For 60 years, this unwritten gentleman's agreement kept black players out of the major leagues. The Brooklyn Dodgers GM, Branch Rickey, saw this not just as a sin, but as a terrible business decision. He launched this secret multi-year mission and found his man, Jackie Robinson. And their first meeting is the stuff of legend. Rickey basically screamed every racial slur imaginable at Robinson, not to test his skill, but to test his temper. He told him he needed a player with, and I quote, the guts not to fight back. And the result? Just look at these numbers. Robinson endured unbelievable abuse, won Rookie of the Year, and became the biggest box office draw since Babe Ruth. The Dodgers shattered attendance records both at home and on the road. It was the perfect example of doing well by doing good. It was a morally courageous decision that also happened to be a genius business move that opened the game up to a whole new audience. So this pattern of conflict forcing change, it keeps going. The next big fight was about who really had the power in baseball. For almost 100 years, the owners had absolute, total control over the players. And all that power was wrapped up in something called the reserve clause. What it meant was that once a player signed a contract, they were basically the property of that team for their entire career. The star center fielder Curt Flood famously called himself a well-paid slave. To put it in perspective, back in 1967, the average player made just $19,000 a year. This system, which a lot of people called a plantation system, was finally shattered thanks to union leader Marvin Miller and Curt Flood, who literally sacrificed his career to sue MLB. Now, Flood lost his case, but his fight started a revolution. In 1975, the players finally won free agency, and the economic shift was just seismic. Just look at this chart. In a single decade, the average salary exploded by more than 700%. Now, this massive transfer of wealth from the owners to the players kicked off 2 decades of just brutal labor wars. And it all came to a head in 1994 when a player strike lasted 232 days, and for the first time in 90 years, they canceled the World Series. The game felt broken, and the fans were absolutely disgusted. So there it was again. The sport was on life support after that '94 strike, and it was forced into what became its most rapid period of reinvention ever. First, you had the thrilling, steroid-fueled home run race in '98 that brought fans roaring back to the stadiums. Then came the Moneyball revolution, where data nerds started beating the big money teams. While all that was happening, MLB quietly built a world-class streaming service, MLB.TV, and accidentally became a tech giant. And then, most recently, to fight the idea that the game was just too slow, they literally put themselves on a clock. So, did that radical change actually work? Oh yeah, it worked. The pitch clock shaved 24 minutes off the average game, and that younger audience they were supposedly losing, viewership among 18 to 34-year-olds jumped by double digits. So, once again, a crisis forced a change that turned out to be a massive, massive win. So what's the big takeaway here? What is the secret to Major League Baseball's incredible 150-year survival? Well, it's not tradition, and it's not nostalgia. It's this relentless, predictable cycle of crisis and reinvention. You see the pattern, right? When the league was a corrupt, chaotic mess, it brought in a dictator to clean house. When it was morally bankrupt, it integrated and found new talent and new money. When it was an unfair system of player control, the players revolted. And when it was dying of boredom, it embraced home runs, data, tech, and speed. Every single time baseball has been pushed to the brink, it has been forced to evolve. And every time, it's come out stronger and richer. This cycle, that's baseball's real story. It's a survivor. Which, of course, brings us to the final question, what's the next storm on the horizon? Is it the total collapse of cable TV? Another nasty labor war? What do you think is the next big crisis that's going to force baseball to reinvent itself all over again?